My friends, are you struggling with your pentatonic guitar solos? I'm going to give you 3 ways to make your solos sound much more compelling and not so boring and blocky, and you can use them right away to start helping your guitar solos. Let's get into it. If you haven't hit subscribe and the bell notification, I would love that as I release more videos to help your guitar playing. I've helped hundreds of guitar players now for about 20 years getting past this pentatonic intermediate plateau. These are the things that I tackle first, all right? Give it away the goods here. First, we think we have learned the pentatonic. If I play this, even just one position, right, up and back, and I can play it over and over and over, it feels like I know it. If we don't have somebody there to actually teach us what that pentatonic means, yeah, just playing it up and back really, really well, really, really cleanly, it could seem like, oh man, all right, cool, I've got it. I'm ready to move on. We're not. These are not just dots, right, on a scale diagram. These are notes. Now, I have a PDF in the description that you can look at to help you look at the spelling. Yes, we're going to use numbers. Please bear with me. Just so we don't have to think of like A, C, D, E, G, and then if I were to move this up, now I have to memorize these notes, and then if I were to move it up to the position of D, I'd have to memorize these notes. We're just going to use the numeric spelling. It's going to make a lot of this much easier so that you can take what we're learning today in whatever key it is that you're playing in, okay? But this is where we're starting to be able to communicate what we want with our guitar solo. So I have my root note, my 1, okay? Flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and then the scale starts over again. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, and then it ends with a flat 3. If I'm in my first position of the minor pentatonic. Now, if I am not creating any sort of compelling statements, phrases, telling a story, there's nothing that I can add to make that better. This is the usual place that our clients will start with. Well, I kind of know this position of the minor pentatonic, and then I know this position. So give me more. Give me some more modes. No, we gotta slow this down and create music, right? And communicate something, tell a story with the least amount of options possible, so that the more we add options, the better our guitar solos get. If you went to Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, and you gave them only 2 strings and 1 position of the minor pentatonic, they would be able to create amazing solos, so that everything that they're adding from that point forward is almost like an artist, having like a much bigger paint palette than just like a couple of primary colors, it's just that much more. But if we don't know how to paint anything with the primary colors, right, we're just adding more nonsense, right? It ends up babbling, right? We're not telling a story. So let's get into what these notes mean as a way of sort of communicating something meaningful. All right, I have my root notes. Okay, my 5th fret, if I'm in A here, A minor pentatonic, my 5th fret of my E, my 7th fret of my D string, and my 5th fret of my high E. Now, that is going to make us feel like resolved. If I'm telling a story, I get to the end, we're resolved. What's really cool is on each side of that note, we have a flat 3, the upper end, and then a flat 7. That gives us this close, but not close enough feel, right? It makes us want that home bass, that resolution, okay? So if I'm going to start communicating something and maybe telling a story, and I want a little bit of an arc and then a resolve, what I'm going to do is play a very, very simple lick, and I'm ending right there. That's my flat 3. You can look at the diagram. It's my flat 3. I can play the same exact thing, the same 4 notes, and just end it with the resolution, with the home bass, okay? I can do that everywhere. I recommend taking the guitar in 2 strings at a time when we're doing this sort of exercise, or you can expand it to 3 strings if you're more advanced, right? And you're just having a tough time with boring guitar solos, okay? But we're just playing a very simple lick and ending it on either a flat 3 or a flat 7. There, my 8th fret of my B string is my flat 7, okay? And then playing the same thing or something similar to it and giving us a resolve, right? What we're doing is tension resolution, tension, resolution. And we're not adding that many words to each phrase, right? Words being sort of the notes. But what we're ending on really, really matters, okay? You can do that all day, right? If I pick a different part of the guitar, the G and the D string, right? It's my flat 3. And then the same exact lick, just adding the resolution there at the end. If I were to do it down on these bottom 2, I only have my flat 3 available in this position. I can go to my flat 7, a whole step down from my root if I really want to, but will give me my tension and then my resolution, right? Now, we're telling a little bit of a story. Usually, when someone comes to work with us, it's a lot of rambling up and down the scale. And that's where it sounds really blocky and boring and scalular. Well, if we reverse engineer that, one of the things that we're doing is, first, we're not creating any phrases, right? We don't have any of those pauses. If I'll have a nice little pause and then a nice little resolution. Sorry about that fret buzz. So now if I were to take that and say like, okay, I have a phrase and a little bit of a pause and a phrase, and I'm not just rambling, really just throwing a whole bunch of words together and not really doing much of anything, I'm then going to go and say, all right, I have my phrase. I got that little bit of pause, a little bit of breathing room. A great start. Well, what's happening also when we're running up and down the scale is the rhythm is the same. Usually eighth notes, depending on how you're counting it, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, right? Just up and back, right, in one direction. Okay. So let's reverse engineer that part out of it, right? We already added a little bit of the space and a little bit of the storytelling. Let's reverse engineer that rhythm out. Now, if I have my strong beats and my weak beats, right? If I put a metronome on, right? My strong beats are 1, 2, 3, 4. My weak beats are the ands in between. And. Okay, and then there's the 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and, right? The 16th notes that are also, if we're focused on our 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, there's going to be notes on either side of those ands that are going to be a little bit closer and give us a little bit more rhythmic variation. I'm going to make this exercise easy in the fact that I don't want you to have to think it out, okay? The best way to do it is if you put that metronome on, okay, right? If I have just this and we're going to pick one note. So we are taking even the phrasing and we are taking the where, you know, if I'm building the tension and releasing it, building the tension and releasing it, we're taking that away. We're just going to focus on one note. Does not matter what note it is. All right. And we're going to come up with an interesting rhythm that I can then repeat. Okay. What makes these rhythms uninteresting and boring is ba 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 ba, or if I'm all strong beats, ba 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 ba. Even if I go just to the weak beats, right? If I have 1, 2, 3, 4, ba 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 ba, a little less predictable at first, but then it just slides right into something that's boring and predictable. We need to be mixing up strong beats and weak beats. All right. And that's how we get an interesting, you know, and I'm putting that in quotes because it might not sound that interesting at first. Okay. But we're training our ear, right? Just like we're training our ear for direct repetition of a lick and then on a tension and a lick to resolve it. We're doing that with our rhythm. Okay. So just put that metronome on. If I have it right here, right? If I do. That's something, right? At least interesting. A couple strong beats, a couple of weak beats, right? Even if I want to do, I'm adding those shorter notes and then a longer note, and I can have that longer note either be that longer note or just a staccato and a little bit of a rest in that. Okay, cool. Can I play that a few times? If I tap my foot, right, if I have my foot tapping here, I can kind of do it with my head so you guys can see. You can see that some of the notes are going to be on my foot tap and some of them are not going to be on my foot tap. All right, that's the best way to do this exercise. Don't worry about, is it the and, the E, you don't have to get into that, right? Just, am I playing some notes on those downbeats? Am I playing some notes on the in-betweens? And am I leaving a little bit of space? So it's not just, that's also not very interesting. Keep coming up with those, right? Create more space, right? Create less space in your lick. If you want to, okay, cool. Now, at least I'm mixing things up and I'm starting to go away from where I'm normally tied into playing. Just keep messing with those and then start adding the other notes of the pentatonic. Right? Just seeing where that guides you. You can then take what you're doing rhythmically into your repeating phrases to give yourself a call and response. If I have something that's not just right call or tension, very da 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 da. Let me take that simple and add somewhat of an interesting rhythm to that. All right, I can just do my metronome here. Some are gonna fall on that sort of head nod, foot tap, and some aren't. Right, bop 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 bop. Okay, cool. Now I'm starting to rhythmically say something while giving a little bit of tension, right? And then a little bit of resolution. Another one. Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da. Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da. Cool. That works, right? Keep experimenting. Lengthen it as you get more comfortable in this, and already just doing these tips are going to make your solo sound better. What's really cool is as you're doing it, just like I'm doing it, putting a metronome on, right, doesn't sound super fun. I understand that. If we do this to a metronome and then you put on a backing track, you're going to see it seeping into your playing, and this is just going to start disappearing, right? Right, that sort of rambling up and down. We're starting to say something. This is very, very exciting. If you have any interesting ways of making those sort of boring solos sound a little bit better, I'd love to hear it below. And if you dig it, hit the like. The last thing that we could do now, we're having our rhythmic phrases, right? We're saying something somewhat interesting, right? And the more we do it, the more interesting this is going to get. What's really cool, put that in quotes, is we can start telling a little bit more of a story. Now we're just going up to tension and release, right? Right? And so how I can make this a little bit more interesting is I don't have to play the exact same lick, right? Right? It's a tension and it's a release, but I can start varying it up a little bit, which is really nice. And that's what we're going to use moving forward. What I don't want to do is forget. We're trying to stay very repetitive so that we're training the part of our brain that doesn't just forget what we just said. There's nothing here. There's nothing to remember what I just said. I don't need to remember because I'm not giving you a path. Now, if I just do, now I'm really remembering what I just said, right? And repeating it back. That can get boring on its own. So now you can start maybe you keep the rhythm the same and you're still doing tension, release, but the rhythm is going to be the same, right? If you're doing that, you're going to see how far away you can get until it starts sounding completely incoherent. This has nothing to do with this. And that's not how we tell a story. Even if we are right? They don't seem very intertwined. They're definitely not repeating, but just having some sort of a setup and then some sort of a release, right? And those are pretty far, right, on the spectrum of like not even close to the same lick, but I'm still not leaving what I just said, right? And the call and response can really hold that down, So you can really start experimenting with how much you want to directly repeat. If your direct repetition is starting to get better, then don't worry about extending that like a little bit more, And lastly, as you're doing it, this is the last tip that I want to tell you to work on. Tip number 3, right? Is there are other notes. If you look at that diagram, right? The 4 and the 5, okay? My 1 is my root note, resolution. My flat 3 gives me the tension. My 4 and my 5 are neutral. And then my flat 7 gives me tension. My root note, same thing, right? If I just go up the scale in that octave. What I'm not touching on here are the neutral notes, the 4 and the 5. Now, what's really cool about those, and of course, we're just dealing with a scale, right? We're not even talking about the harmony that's below it, what the chord changes are, etc. But what is really cool is if I just take the scale as a whole, what I can do is use those neutral notes, all right, and drive, let's just say I'm driving tension. What they do is they complement the lick that you just played, okay? So if I drive a little tension, all right, I got my tension. I want my release. That lick, I'm just ending on my 4. Okay, what that's gonna do is it's gonna drive the tension up. It's almost like I'm asking a question. And then what I'm doing is sort of expounding on that question, right? Explaining that question, I should say. So like ask a question, all right, I'm not gonna answer it, but I'm gonna explain what I mean by that question, and then give the resolution. Now we're down, we're good, we're on the resolution. If I have my resolution and I end on another neutral note, now I'm just still down here. It's not driving tension. I'm still down here. The only thing that drives tension is going to be the tension note. The only thing that resolves is going to be the resolution note. But you can experiment with how you want to display. Cool. Right? It was like tension, and then I ended on the 5, so I'm still up at the tension, resolved it, and then explained a little bit more by having a lick that ends on the 4. So that's how we're telling a story here. You know what I mean? Not everything is boom, stop, tension, release. That is going to get very tiring to the ear as well. So if you implement all of these 3, your solos will get so much better, so much faster. And like I said, just work on it, right? In almost like a homework, mundane way, and it's going to start making its way into your playing, and then listen to what other people are doing. Do not be fooled. And this is what we're going to go into in another video. The link is below. Do not be fooled by longer phrases. Hear that at first, it does sound like it's just running up and down the scale, right? Our ear is not used to hearing these phrases strung together. Just like if I go to another country and I hear, a quick phrase, oh, I can answer that. A quick question, oh, I can answer that. Okay, I can say that back. But then when you hear people start like really rallying off, long paragraphs without pausing at the punctuation, it gets way out of control, right? Because my ear is not used to hearing that language, and that's what's happening here. Those longer, sort of like real riffed out kind of solos are just small phrases being strung together, to create a story, to create a paragraph. You can think of it just like writing in another language. And that's why it does sound at first like, oh, they're just doing this, right? They're just going up and down the scale like as fast as they can. No, that is not the case. But for now, we want to do it with that pause in there, okay? So this is where we're headed. If you are an intermediate guitar player that wants to be able to sing through your guitar and bridge the gap between your creative ideas and what you were able to play, I have a free training below where I go into why we get stuck in that really boxy pentatonic plateau, how to break free and become fretboard fluent, Or you can book a call with us, that link is below as well, to see if you are right for our mentorship program.